Well, obviously, the EPS and sales numbers are key, but let's think back. One of the reasons we have a bearish view of Apple here is what saved them last quarter, quite honestly, before the earnings announcement was Buffett's buy-in. And then the key number in the earnings report was the price per phone. That took everybody by surprise. We don't think that's a sustainable metric at all. We think that people who have wanted the $1,000 phone went out and bought it, and I think that that's going to be what investors cue in on and what could be very disappointing here for Apple.
Tom, to Josh's point about China, we're not expecting it to have a big impact in terms of the tariffs on the quarter, but one of the reports that shook stocks this week came from Bloomberg that said that President Trump was ready to go all in on Chinese imports, imposing tariffs if things don't go well with President Xi. What would that do to Apple's financials if that happened?
Sure. So when you think about trying to determine the risk to Apple for China, you have two risks. One, this notion you're talking about, if the next round from the administration was put a tariff on everything out of China. And then number two, which you touched on earlier, give or take 20% of Apple's revenues come from Chinese consumers. But specific to the September quarter, I do think strong ASP growth from the XS and the XS Max will enable Apple to have a very strong September quarter.
Tom, just to follow up on the idea that perhaps after this nice run that Apple stock is having, the fact that it's actually been insulated from a lot of the volatility to the downside that the rest of tech has, are investors a little bit complacent going in here? It seems as if they're very comfortable with the overall story, not just iPhone volumes, but the idea that services is growing. So not to say any of that's going wrong, but how are investors set up for this report?
So acknowledging that China is a very big risk for Apple, I think the shares are set up beautifully. And what you're seeing is Apple is making refinements to its major product line, smartphones. And then we attended the event yesterday in Brooklyn, and you're seeing this with the tablets as well, with the Face ID, maximizing the display size on the device. We think the consumers are warmly reacting to that. And independent of China, I think Apple's amazingly set up for continued strong performance.